Well, welcome back. We're outside working on the Snowcat. That is a rarity in Minnesota to get above freezing. So I took the opportunity, rolled it outside to sandblast it because if you've sandblasted before, you know what kind of mess it makes inside the shop. Rolled the tarp out so I could save as much of the blast media as possible and refilter that and reuse it because we're all about reduce, reuse, and recycle here on the ranch. And it definitely a challenge as I was running out of daylight as this was happening. As any of you know, it takes a lot longer, especially when you got all the corners and angles and all the sides of all the tubing. So we were able to get her done and get her back in and then start in on painting. So here I'm using a urethane based epoxy to go ahead and prime everything. And that promotes super good adhesion. And then again, used a urethane gloss black on painting everything. So I kind of showed you there. It was a little dark in there, especially when you're painting black. So I took a headlamp and I just banded it to my paint can as I was in there spraying. So that gave me a lot of light where I needed it and worked actually really well. I wouldn't recommend using high quality headlight as pretty much when you're done, I tried the Ziploc bag to protect it, but it just ended up being junk afterwards. So it's now a black dimly lit headlight. So getting ready to put the flooring in. So going ahead and using 3/4 inch plywood here. It's a little thicker than what's required, but I definitely wanted it to last. So using an oil based equipment enamel here for the plywood, and that's just going to promote water resistance and longevity on those pieces. As you'll see here next, go ahead and we're going to, on the bottom side of that plywood, because you have a lot of track throw of snow and moisture, we actually are using some fiberglass milk board is what it's called. And I'm going to go ahead and paint that black before we throw that down on there. And we adhered that with some construction adhesive and then clamp that down so that that's going to promote adhesion, but it's also got all those cross beams under there to help hold that up.
We're working on the Snowcat, but I got a little side project, and this needs to get done because as we stand now, we are currently using, I'll show you current setup here, is we'll take a little walk, is our vise is here on the bench, which we have all our papers and our carpet and all our intricate tools and all this that shouldn't get grinding filings or heat or any of that near is there. So that's not the best place for a vise. Works good for holding on to nuts and screws when you're shortening bolts, but as far as actually doing some major cutting and welding, we need it on the welding table. So I picked up this Wilton ATV. It stands for all-terrain vise. We're gonna throw it out of the box here. And I picked up a receiver tube blank and we're gonna weld that on because these come with, let's get right into it. We got instructions. We have this handy dandy receiver tube that goes on a lot of the job trucks. You'll see them. You got the big deck on the back, and they bolt this sucker down so you can slide the vise in and out so nobody steals it. A lot of guys will put a nut and a bolt and weld it in there so people don't steal it, especially when you're talking Wilton. But for our application, bolting it on the side here, it just ain't gonna work since I got 2-inch and this is about 4 across. So I picked up a receiver tube blank. So we'll take that, we're gonna weld that on the side here, and then we'll be able to slide our brand new Wilton ATV. Look at that, that sucker is stout. It's also mounted, it's cushion mounted here, so it's adjustable. And it's a great vise. Heavy hammering area, just stout all the way around. High quality by Wilton. And we'll get it mounted here. So let's get at it. All right, got it welded on. We had to change things up just a little bit because I wanted to still keep it flush so that any material hanging out over here wouldn't hit on this. So, and then of course we obviously got the pin that has to go through with the key. So making sure that that all fits in and we can get this key in without it sticking up, that was a little bit to watch there. So we're gonna be able to save this, put this on a truck or another rig in that so that we can swap it back and forth. But then this here will mount right up. Slide her in here. Put this in. Slide our key through. Everything mounts flush. Stuff can go right past. We got our vise here, solid. So we'll be able to pound on this, wail on this, do whatever we need. So this will be super handy on here. So I'm really excited about it. So let's get back at the Snowcat.
Now that the vise is on the welding table, we got a project to tackle, and that's the channel iron piece that was across the back for the hitch. Must have had a pintle hitch on it and got pulled too hard because that was actually bent. You can't see it in the pictures, but we ended up having to take that off, cut that out, and then put a new piece of channel in. And then I actually welded another receiver tube in there, re-added the gussets to that, and then of course we had to reattach it back to the Snowcat. So it's quite a bit heavier channel iron than was before because I figured if it got bent once, we better make sure that it doesn't ever bend again. So that 2-inch receiver is going to be solid for pulling whatever we need. If you like this, be sure to give me a thumbs up, leave some comments below, and get ready for part 5.